Discover the incredible journey of a black maid who changed a millionaire's twins forever. Clara woke before the sun, the world still draped in darkness as she slipped into her work clothes. The chill of the morning air bit at her skin, but her resolve warmed her heart. At 35, she was a powerhouse, juggling a demanding job as a maid at the opulent Thompson estate, while caring for her ailing mother and spirited daughter. The clock ticked relentlessly, and she had little choice but to rise early and return late. Still, despite the exhaustion, Clara carried a lightness in her step that seemed to defy her circumstances. The Thompsons lived in a sprawling mansion, every corner showcasing their wealth, grand halls adorned with chandeliers, priceless art, and manicured lawns that sparkled like dreams. Yet behind the facade of perfection, Clara noticed the shadows creeping around the twin boys, Jordan and Alex. At just 14, they struggled under the weight of their parents' expectations, lost in a world where achievement was valued over individuality. Clara saw the pain in their eyes, all too familiar to her. It echoed her own struggles, growing up in a system designed to keep her down. One evening, as Clara folded linens in the laundry room, the twins entered, their faces flushed with frustration. They had just come from another rigorous tutoring session and were desperate to break free. "Clara," Jordan said, his voice barely above a whisper. "Can we talk?" She saw the fire behind their eyes and felt an urge to help them escape momentarily from their gilded cage. As the boys shared their dreams of being artists, not just another set of perfect students, Clara opened up about her own journey. She recounted her childhood, the challenges she faced, and how she refused to give in. "Life isn't about what is handed to you, it's about how you rise up," she said, her own heart swelling with fortitude and pride. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen." Now let's continue. The twins listened intently, inspiration igniting within them. They began to open up about their own struggles and insecurities, sharing dreams that defied their parents' expectations. The bond grew, a trellis of empathy and resilience entwined through their conversations. But change doesn't come easily, and the Thompsons soon recognized the shift in their sons. During a town event, where Clara volunteered to showcase local talents, the atmosphere thickened with tension. As Jordan and Alex stepped onto the stage, spotlight shining bright around their trembling figures, Clara's heart raced. They had decided to embrace their true selves, rejecting the weight of pretense and stepping into their authenticity. Their performance was an anthem of individuality, a song of their struggles, and it sent ripples through the audience. Back at home, the confrontation with their parents was inevitable. Clara's influence was evident, sparking both admiration and ire from the Thompsons. How dare she inspire them? The matriarch spat, clinging to her gilded worldview like a lifeline. Tension hung heavy in the air, crackling like electricity ready to burst. In the silence that followed, Clara stood at the precipice. Would her role in the boys' lives create a ripple of change or just a storm of conflict? Every thread of her being stirred with hope, yet the walls of privilege and prejudice loomed large. What would the future hold for the Thompsons and for her family? Clara sensed the potential for transformation sparkling in the air, waiting just outside their grasp. As the dust of confrontation settled, one burning question remained: could love and understanding rise above the fear that kept them apart? The next day, as the sun broke through the darkness, Clara's heart was still racing from the events of the night before. She braced herself for a barrage of cold looks and whispered judgments from the Thompsons. Stepping into the kitchen, she found Mrs. Thompson perched at the marble countertop, an immovable figure in her crisp blouse and expensive pearls. "Clara," she began, her voice sharp enough to slice through a loaf of bread, "we need to talk about you and my sons." Clara felt her stomach knot. The warmth of the sun in the window felt distant. She knew Mrs. Thompson wasn't approaching her with praise. "Yes, ma'am," she replied, forcing herself to maintain eye contact, her resolve stronger than the fear tightening her chest. "They've gotten ideas. Dangerous ones." Mrs. Thompson's words coiled around the room like a storm cloud. "You've filled their heads with nonsense. They should be preparing for the future, not daydreaming about being artists." A mix of anger and sorrow surged through Clara. "They want to be true to themselves, Mrs. Thompson. Isn't that worth something? True to themselves?" The matriarch's laughter was sharp, filled with disbelief. "What a luxury. They need to toe the line if they wish to find success. They don't have the luxury of choices like you do." Clara's heart sank. It was a familiar argument, one she had grown so weary of over the years. She took a breath to steady herself, refusing to let anger blind her. "Success looks different for everyone, doesn't it? Sometimes we have to fight for what that means." Mrs. Thompson's expression softened slightly, but it quickly hardened again as she regained her composure. "You've overshot your place, Clara. I expect you to do your job, not indoctrinate my sons with your ideas." With those final words, Mrs. Thompson swept away, leaving Clara staring at the uneaten breakfast spread. It felt like a slap, a sharp reminder of the walls that surrounded her and the boys. But she wouldn't falter, they were worth fighting for. Later in the afternoon, Clara found the twins in their makeshift art studio, a dusty corner of the attic littered with paint splashes and sketches. The sight of their passionate creativity filled her with pride and hope. "Clara!" Jordan exclaimed, his eyes bright as he waved her over. "Look at this." He held up a canvas covered in vibrant colors that seemed to dance with life. "It's about how we found our voices. You helped us see that." Clara's heart swelled. They were growing, finding their paths, and it was beautiful, but she also saw the uncertainty in their eyes, and the weight of their reality pressed down on her once again. Clara knelt beside them, speaking softly, "Boys, it won't be easy. Your parents won't understand. But your dreams matter. Don't ever forget that." As they shared laughter and ideas, Clara felt the last remains of tension start to fade. But in the back of her mind was the looming confrontation that awaited her again. Days passed, and the tension in the Thompson household grew thick like fog. Clara noticed whispered conversations behind closed doors, furtive glances thrown toward her direction. She braced herself for the inevitable. Then, one afternoon, Jordan approached Clara with unease written across his face. "What if we're the reason things get worse for you?" His voice was shaky, guilt swimming in his eyes. Clara placed a hand on his shoulder. "You're not the reason. Your truth is powerful. Keep fighting. We'll face whatever comes together." But would that be enough? As Clara settled into bed that night, silence wrapped around her like a shroud, heavy with doubt. She couldn't shake the feeling that a storm was brewing, one that could either uplift them all or tear their world apart. And with everything on the line, she wondered, was love and understanding enough to pull them through, or would the weight of societal expectations crush them all? Tomorrow would reveal the answer, and Clara's heart raced at the thought of what awaited them. The next morning dawned gray and dreary, as if the sky mirrored the weight on Clara's heart. She woke with dread clinging to her like a shroud, apprehensive about what the day would demand from her. Despite this, she stood resolute, her fingers brushing past the remnants of yesterday's joy. The art still spread across the attic floor, vibrant yet saturated with the unspoken fears of the twins. When Clara entered the kitchen, the atmosphere simmered with tension. Mr. Thompson was there, his presence stark and overpowering, tension etched in the lines of his brow. The moment he noticed her, the air thickened, and Clara swallowed hard, steeling herself for whatever was to come. "Clara," he said, his voice low and controlled, but the underlying rage was palpable. "We need to have the same conversation your boss's wife had with you." Clara's pulse quickened. "Sir, he held up a hand. "No more discussions about their art. It's time for reality. They have futures to think about, not fantasy worlds. His voice thundered in the silence of the room. She felt every word sink into her chest, but she refused to wilt under his stormy gaze. They are exploring themselves, Mr. Thompson. Art is as real as anything else. You think dreams pay the bills? He shot back, anger flashing in his eyes. They need to be prepared for the world, not buried in paint and doodles. A lump settled in Clara's throat. This was what she feared, the boys caught in the tide of their parents' rigid expectations, drawn away from their dreams. I understand your concern, but isn't it worth allowing them to discover who they really are? To understand their passions? Mr. Thompson scoffed, his arms crossed. And what if they end up like you? His gaze darkened. A mid-level maid with delusions of grandeur. I've given them everything. All I ask is that they make something of themselves. That hurt. Clara's heart clenched, but she stood firm. Success isn't just about money. It's about finding fulfillment. Your perspective is not what I need, he snapped, and Clara felt the last vestige of hope stumble. Just then, Jordan and Caleb entered, their faces a mix of confusion and worry. They sensed the tension in the room. Clara caught their eyes and quickly masked her uncertainty with a smile, forcing an encouraging nod their way. Mom said we had an appointment to talk about our future, Jordan announced, uncertainty lacing his words. Is everything okay? Mr. Thompson turned to the twins, his demeanor softening slightly. Boys, dreams are nice, but it's time to think practically. There are things that need planning, that need to be done in the real world, Clara cut in, her voice steady. But their goals matter. What makes them happy matters. For a heartbeat, silence reigned, thick and laden with unresolved emotions. Clara's heart raced. This was the moment that could either break them or bring clarity. Suddenly, a voice broke the tension. Can we talk about this as a family? It was Mrs. Thompson, her presence filled with authority. She stood at the threshold, arms crossed, eyes scanning the room. Clara's breath caught in her throat. Would Mrs. Thompson take her side, or would she further push the twins away from their dreams? As everyone turned to face her, Clara saw a flicker of determination in the boys' eyes. They were ready to fight for what they believed in, just as Clara had taught them. What would Mrs. Thompson say? Would she shatter their hopes or finally see them for who they truly were? Clara stood at the precipice of their uncertain futures, her heart racing with the potential for change and the weight of dread that something might break. As the family gathered, Clara realized the stakes had never been higher. The confrontation loomed, and their paths lay suspended between love and obligation. Would this be the turning point that changed everything for the boys, or would it derail all their hopes? Tomorrow would hold the answer, and Clara's pulse soared with reckless anticipation. Mrs. Thompson stepped into the kitchen, her presence commanding immediate attention. For a moment, the air hung thick with possibility, as everyone held their breath, waiting. Clara's heart raced, unsure of which way the tide would turn. Would Mrs. Thompson offer an extension of grace, or would her response further entwine the twins in the web spun by their father's expectations? Family, Mrs. Thompson repeated, her voice steady, yet tinged with an urgent edge. We should discuss these concerns together. It's time we recognize the importance of what the boys want, before we decide their futures based solely on our fears. Clara dared to glance toward the twins, tension bled from the corners of their mouths, replaced by a flicker of hope. Mr. Thompson's face turned a shade darker, his outrage simmering just below the surface. What they want is naive. They need guidance, not more freedom to chase fantasies. His frustration burst forth, infusing every syllable with a fury that threatened to overshadow the moment. Or perhaps they need a chance to explore their potential, Mrs. Thompson countered, her tone firm but softening as she looked at the boys. Jordan, Caleb, your passions are valid. We all have dreams. What do you want? The twins exchanged glances, the warmth of the moment encouraging them to speak. Jordan's voice wavered but broke through nonetheless. I want to paint. I want to create worlds that make people feel something. Caleb nodded vigorously, yeah. And I want to make animations, shows that inspire people. A look of disbelief crossed Mr. Thompson's face, morphing into a frown that seemed almost comical. But what's the point of that if it doesn't lead to a real career? I've worked too hard for this family to watch you squander your gifts, your lives. Clara felt the sting of his words, sharp and cutting, even as the boy's determination grew. You mean you want us to be something we're not, Caleb said, his voice more confident now. What's the difference between a real career and one that inspires? Aren't they both important? For an instant, silence reigned, a breath held in time as the room balanced on a knife's edge. Clara's heart pounded as she caught Mrs. Thompson's gaze, a fleeting moment that conveyed understanding, compassion, a shared desire to nurture the dreams of these boys, rather than crush them. You know, Mrs. Thompson started, a gentle firmness edging her words, life is built on more than just what you can see on paper. It's about what you feel when you pursue your passions. Her tone became warm, brightening the shadows cast by her husband's stern presence. Your father, he works so hard, but it's because he believes in a different kind of success. That doesn't mean you have to follow the same path. Clara's breath hitched as she watched the realization dawn on the twins. They were not alone in this fight. With their mother's backing, perhaps they could navigate the winding path ahead of them. Clara felt a flicker of hope, igniting within her a warmth that emboldened her presence. Maybe, Mrs. Thompson continued, we can create a balance. Pursuing your art does not mean abandoning your responsibilities. Together, we can find a way. Mr. Thompson opened his mouth, ready to challenge her yet again, but the look on Mrs. Thompson's face stilled him. The air grew heavy with anticipation, uncertainty radiating from everyone in the room. Clara felt the potential for change vibrate through the air. This might truly be a turning point, not just for the twins, but for the entire family dynamic. The battle lines were drawn, but the hope lingered like a warm glow, suggesting possibility. Could they really alter the course of their lives from here? As the family settled into the conversation, Clara considered the implications. Would the twins' aspirations flourish, or would they face a wall built of fear and expectation? Clara held her breath, feeling the weight of 1,000 questions, each one more pressing than the last. What if this was just the beginning of a much bigger struggle? The temperature in the kitchen shifted, the tense atmosphere beginning to ripple with an undercurrent of hope. Clara could see it in her parents' faces, the lines of contention were blurring, expectant and cracked open just enough to let possibility seep in. Mrs. Thompson's voice cut through the lingering apprehensions. Why don't we take a moment to hear from everyone? This isn't just about the boys. We all need to express what we need from each other. The twins' eyes filled with a mix of apprehension and excitement. They leaned forward, as if the world was about to unfurl before them. Jordan spoke first, breaking the silence that hung thick in the air. I really want to take an art class next semester. At the old community center. His words flew straight to Clara's heart. In that moment, she felt the universe realigning, the gravity of their dreams pulling them closer together, while the distance from Mr. Thompson's expectations seemed to widen. Caleb chimed in, and I want to enroll in that animation program. It's just 1 day a week. His enthusiasm shimmered across the table, infectious even under his father's watchful gaze. Mr. Thompson's expression hardened momentarily, yet beneath that, Clara recognized a glint of confusion. Could Mrs. Thompson's proposal be softening his resolve? Fine, say you want these things, but how will you pay for classes? Do you even understand what it takes? His voice dripped with skepticism, an instinctive reaction to what felt like a loss of control. Dad, Jordan pressed, his heart pounding with determination, the art center offers scholarships. I'll work at the coffee shop and save up. The fervor in the twins' words surprised Clara. It was more than desire, it was empowerment. Here were two young men, willing to stand their ground for their dreams. Her own heart swelled, bursting with pride at their courage. Mrs. Thompson took a deep breath, her eyes fixed on her husband. Do you see now? They're not asking for everything. Just a chance to show us who they are. Silence filled the room again, but this time it wasn't heavy with fear, it shimmered with the sheen of hope. Clara watched at the edges, feeling as if she were witnessing a delicate dance, a negotiation of dreams and expectations. Mr. Thompson's brows knit tighter as he seemed to weigh his options. But it's risky, he finally said, his voice low. You could end up disappointed. They'll need security, not a daydream. Caleb shifted uncomfortably under his father's weighty judgment, but Clara's eyes met his, offering encouragement. Sometimes, Dad, dreams are the fuel for hard work, she added, her own voice shaky yet resolute. You push us so hard to succeed, but can't you see that they want to succeed in something that matters to them? Mrs. Thompson nodded, echoing Clara's sentiment. They need to feel fulfilled, even if it takes them down a winding road. It doesn't matter how unconventional the path might seem. The tension in the room seemed to warp, a metaphorical tightrope strung taut by expectations was trembling. Clara couldn't help but hold her breath, waiting for the shift. Finally, Mr. Thompson broke his stony silence, his expression softening just the slightest. Okay, he relented, almost inaudibly. But let us establish a plan. Joy surged through Clara's veins. The thread that had separated dreams from reality was finally starting to weave together. But would this newfound understanding be enough? Could they truly forge a future that balanced passion and responsibility? With questions lingering in the air, Clara understood that the road ahead was still shrouded in uncertainty. Would the twins' determination stand firm against future doubts? Or were they stepping into a world that could push them beyond what they were ready for? Clara exhaled slowly, her heart humming with excitement and trepidation. One thing was certain, their journey was just beginning, and each step would come with its own set of challenges. What would happen next, when dreams met reality in a clash of expectations? The next morning, Clara awoke to the sun spilling through her window, casting golden patches across her room. She lay there for a moment, soaking in the warmth, feeling the pulse of hope from the previous night still lingering in her veins. Today, the twins would visit the community center for registration. It wouldn't just be about signing up, it would be the first step toward their dreams. As Clara made her way to the kitchen, she found her parents already at the table. Mr. Thompson was clad in his usual work clothes, his features softened but still marked by a lingering tension. Mrs. Thompson, on the other hand, wore the calm expression of someone who had managed to align conflicting pieces of her life, if only for a moment. Morning, Clara said, her voice a mix of cheer and caution. Big day, huh? Mrs. Thompson smiled, pouring Clara a cup of coffee. Yeah, Clara replied, excitement bubbling inside her. I can't wait to see how they react. Just then, Caleb bounded down the stairs, his backpack slung over one shoulder, and Jordan followed, looking slightly more composed but equally eager. Ready for this? Caleb grinned at his brother, and Jordan nodded, a fire in his eyes. Mr. Thompson straightened in his chair, taking in the boy's energy. Remember, this is just step one, he warned, trying to rein in the enthusiasm with a touch of gravity. You'll still need to manage your studies and responsibilities. Priorities. Yeah, Dad, we know, Jordan replied, a hint of determination in his tone. But this is really important to us. Clara's heart swelled with pride again. She loved how they stood tall against their father's doubts, harnessing their dreams as shields. As they prepared to leave, she caught Mrs. Thompson's eye. An unspoken understanding passed between them, a shared belief that this could be the turning point they all needed. The community center buzzed with activity when they arrived, vibrant murals livening the dull walls. Kids dashed past, laughter echoing around the courtyard while an instructor welcomed everyone with open arms. Clara watched as the twins took everything in, glancing at schedules and flyers, their excitement palpable. Look at this one! Caleb exclaimed, pointing to a flyer for a summer camp focused on animation. We have to sign up. Definitely. Jordan replied, his mind already racing with ideas, sketches dancing in his imagination. As they approached the registration desk, Clara's heart raced too. The moment felt pivotal, a threshold crossing from childhood protections into the uncertainty of adulthood. She held her breath, waiting to see the response of the community center staff to her brother's enthusiasm. The registration assistant waved the twins over with a warm smile. "What programs are you interested in?" she asked, pen poised in hand. Jordan opened his mouth, ready to speak, but before he could form the words, Mr. Thompson's hand gently rested on his shoulder. "Boys, how about you start with one course? Let us keep it manageable," he said, his brows slightly furrowed. Clara's heart dropped, sensing the weight of that familiar pressure trying to bear down again. "But, Dad," Jordan started, glancing at Caleb for support. "I'm here to help, but I don't want to see you overwhelmed," Mr. Thompson insisted. It was clear this was more about his fears than their dreams. Clara intervened, her voice steady. "Dad, maybe we should let them share the whole picture before we limit them. They know their limits." The room fell silent, eyes darting between Clara and Mr. Thompson. Clara could feel the tension rising like thick steam. Would this moment burst their dreams, or could it fuel the fire? Mr. Thompson exhaled slowly, his own expectations churning within him. "Fine," he said, almost in defeat. "Just choose wisely." Realizing a tentative bridge had been built, joy sparked in the twins' eyes again. "Then we'll take both," Caleb said with an infectious grin that made everyone smile, but as Clara felt the tension lift, she wondered, could they navigate their way through this balance of dreams and responsibilities? What might happen when the twins faced real decisions down the line, away from their parents' watchful eyes? As they completed the registration, Clara's heart raced with hope, even amid uncertainty. They were a step closer, but the journey ahead promised to be anything but simple. What would the twins do when they finally faced real-world obstacles that tested their resolve? The weeks passed quickly, the summer days blending into each other like a watercolor painting. Clara watched as the twins delved into their courses, sparked by enthusiasm and creativity. Caleb's sketches began to emerge all over the house on napkins, notepads, and even on the back of cereal boxes. Jordan, with his newfound love for animation, often sat glued to the computer, trying to bring his brother's drawings to life. Clara marveled at how the hustle and bustle of their lives had shifted. The house, once laden with quiet unease, now burst with laughter, debates, and the occasional sibling bickering over who could do the better character voice. But one Sunday afternoon, as they all lounged on the living room floor, Clara couldn't shake the sense that something was looming on the horizon. Mr. Thompson, despite having embraced their summer programs, frequently left the house early and returned late, often buried in phone calls or meetings. Each time he walked through the door, a nagging tension settled in the room, a frail thread woven with his unspoken worries. It gnawed at Clara, reminding her that the battle for balance was ongoing. "Mr. Thompson?" Caleb interrupted, his voice slicing through the comfortable clutter of the room. "What do you think about my latest character? I want him to be funny but also brave." Mr. Thompson glanced away from his phone, surprised by the sudden question. "That's great, Caleb, but what?" Jordan's voice was sharp, the underlying tension rising like steam. "We've been working hard at this, Dad. It matters to us." Clara's stomach tightened. The boys were riding a wave of inspiration, and she could see the doubt begin to line her father's face. Just as the thought of confrontation hung in the air, he sighed. "I know it's important. I worry that having fun can sometimes distract you from what really counts." Clara couldn't help herself. "Dad, what if having fun is part of what counts? They're learning, too, and that's just as important." Mr. Thompson shook his head slightly. "It's a fine line, Clara. I want them to succeed." The warmth that existed just moments ago flickered. Clara felt the tightness of overbearing dreams pressing in again, yet she knew the twins were thriving, finding their own identity and passions. They had sacrificed a bit of their time and energy to these dreams. Why couldn't their father see it? Look, she said, trying to find the right words. These experiences matter. They learn to work hard, to struggle, and to triumph. The world's not just about work. You can have joy and still succeed. Mr. Thompson's expression hardened. I know the world can be harsh, then let them experience it. Clara's heart ached. Let them make mistakes. Let them enjoy their youth. For a brief moment, the air crackled with tension, an argument brewing just beneath the surface. Everyone paused, unsure of how to continue. Caleb leveled his gaze at their father. We're not going to mess this up. You say we should pursue what we love, but then you push back. We need to explore. And then silence fell, the air thick with anticipation seemed to stretch endlessly. Clara could sense the shift, a heavy moment fraught with potential. The twins were standing up for themselves, and it was beautiful to witness. But would Mr. Thompson understand? Finally, he lowered his gaze, the flickering light of contention dimming. Okay, I'm listening. What do you want out of this? The question hung, and Clara felt her chest tighten. This was the moment where dreams collided with reality. Would they all find a way through this uncertainty, or would the weight of differing expectations fracture their bond? In the ensuing silence, Clara held her breath. What would the twins say? How would they navigate these waters? The answer could change everything. Caleb took a deep breath, the kind that comes right before a plunge into cold water. He exchanged a quick glance with Jordan, who nodded slightly. It felt like their hearts were beating in synchronized rhythm, ready to take on the moment. Well, Caleb began, his voice steadier than he felt. We want to create something big, something that makes people laugh and think at the same time. We want to tell stories. Jordan jumped in, his excitement bubbling over. Yeah. We've been working on a short film together, something original. We think we can really make something special. But we need your support, Dad. Not just your approval. Mr. Thompson leaned back, the weight of the world reflected in his eyes. Support. What does that mean exactly? You know there's a risk involved. It could mean taking time from your studies, missing assignments, not meeting expectations. Clara's heart raced as she watched the twins gather their courage. Dad, they won't learn just from textbooks. This is part of who they are. It's who they're becoming, she said softly. She could see the glimmer of hope in the boys' eyes, believing they might just make their father understand. Caleb pressed forward, his determination shining through. We already put so much time into this project. It's our dream, Dad. Just like you work hard for your job, we want to work hard for our dream. But we can't do it alone. In that moment, Clara saw the vulnerability flicker in Mr. Thompson's stern demeanor. It was a glimpse of the father who cared deeply, who wanted to protect his kids from the world's harsh realities. Boys, I just don't want you to end up disappointed. I want to prepare you for real life, he said, a hint of worry creeping into his voice. Jordan responded quickly. But what if we get to fail? Failing is part of learning. You always tell us that we should chase what makes us happy. Isn't that worth something, even if it's risky? Clara felt a surge of pride as she watched the twins stand their ground. They were stronger than she had ever anticipated, challenging the man who had created a foundation of expectations. It was a moment that felt like catharsis, cutting through the confusion and tension that had been brewing, but Mr. Thompson wasn't folding. He pondered for a moment, fidgeting with the edges of his phone. Clara could feel the clock ticking, the weight of time urging him toward a decision. Are you sure you're ready for that? Do you really understand what it takes? An undeniable flame ignited within Caleb, and he replied, We'll work harder than ever. We'll prove it to you. Just give us a chance. The words hung in the air, raw and charged, and Clara could feel the heartbeat of the family thrumming in unison, a mixture of hope and trepidation. Would this be a turning point for them all? Mr. Thompson sighed heavily, the creases on his forehead deepening as he wrestled with the tension. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, he nodded. "Okay, I'll support you. But you need to remember the balance. It's not just about dreams, it's about reality too." Relief washed over Clara as she watched the boys' faces light up with a mixture of joy and disbelief. They had taken a leap, and their father was willing to meet them a little more than halfway. But as the excitement bubbled over into their next questions and ideas, Clara felt that familiar tension creeping back in. What would happen if they really pushed the envelope? What if Mr. Thompson's support wasn't enough when challenges really hit? Before she could voice her concerns, a sudden buzz filled the room as Mr. Thompson's phone rang, cutting through their moment. He picked it up, his face shifting into professional mode. Clara could sense the looming specter of whatever had been weighing on him before now re-entering the scene. "Excuse me, I have to take this," he said, stepping away. In that moment, the family dynamic shifted yet again. Would the support they had won be enough to weather the storm? As the room began to fill with questions, the pulse of their transformative journey danced on the edge of uncertainty, leaving Clara wondering what lies ahead. Would they embrace this newfound freedom, or would the pressures of the outside world pull them back into old patterns? Caleb and Jordan stood in the living room, basking in the moment of approval from their dad. They felt like superheroes on the brink of a great adventure. But just as quickly, reality knocked on the door, a reminder that dreams come with their own set of challenges. "Can you hear me?" Mr. Thompson's voice was tense as he stepped away. Clara caught snippets of the conversation, words like deadline, budget, and unexpected complications. Each word felt like a jab to the joyful bubble they had just created. Caleb and Jordan exchanged concerned glances. They both felt it, the weight of the world creeping back in. "Let us take it to the park tomorrow, yeah?" Caleb said, trying to maintain the excitement they had just fought for. "We could brainstorm, make a plan. This is just the beginning." "Totally." Jordan agreed, but there was a tremor of doubt in his voice. "But what if Dad doesn't like our ideas later? What if he sees it all as a mistake?" Clara watched her sons, her heart aching at the flicker of uncertainty they hid behind forced smiles. She floated toward them, kneeling to their level. "Listen, it's okay to have worries. Change can be scary. But you have each other, and you're doing this together." A warmth filled Caleb's eyes. "Thanks, Mom. We're going to give it everything we've got." Jordan nodded vigorously. "Yeah, and if we mess up, we'll just learn from it, right?" The sound of Mr. Thompson's footsteps returned, and Caleb reached for his brother's hand, wondering if they could tackle whatever storm was looming. Mr. Thompson hung up, his face tight but resolved. "Boys, we need to talk about logistics. If you're serious about this film, I want a plan. You need to show me what you intend to do. I'm giving you my support, but I also need to see that you're committed." "Absolutely, Dad. We'll outline everything," Caleb exclaimed, enthusiasm brightening his expression again. Calm washed over the room momentarily, but Clara sensed the shadow of pressure filling the air. The creativity and imagination that flowed between her sons felt fragile against the backdrop of their father's high expectations. Later that night, Caleb and Jordan huddled over their laptops, eyes glued to the screen. They began molding their ideas into something tangible. Pen met paper as scenes played out in their minds. Laughter burst forth as they crafted ridiculous dialogue, a mix of inspiration and love seeping into every brainstorm, but as the deep night set in, doubts crept in like an unwelcome guest. Jordan's finger hesitated over the keyboard. What if this isn't good enough? What if we're just wasting our time? Not going to happen, Caleb replied with determination, but there was a tremor in his own resolve. We just need to stay true to what we want. This is our vision. We'll figure it out. The resolve began to slip away as the reality of their undertaking crashed over them in waves. Each new idea was mined with a chasm of fears: failure, rejection, not living up to expectations. Clara, in her quiet room, heard the twins murmuring and put her ear to the door. Their struggle echoed her own. Was it right to push them into this space, knowing the wild waters they faced ahead? She decided she wouldn't let her apprehensions hold them back. They needed her belief now more than ever. As dawn approached, a spark ignited within them. Caleb turned to Jordan, a newfound fire igniting his words. Let us do this. Let us sink or swim together. We've got each other. But they had no idea of the challenges that awaited them just around the corner. Some demons were closer than they realized. In the chaos of their excitement, a single message flashed on Caleb's phone. His face drained of color as he read it. Guys, this is from Emily. She saw our post about the film. She wants to be part of it, but there's something more she needs to tell us. What could it possibly be? As Clara awoke the next morning, a weight had lifted, but a tension still simmered beneath the surface. She could sense the family dynamic balancing precariously, but today was a new chance for acceptance, understanding, and strength. Caleb and Jordan's dreams hung in the air, fragile yet fierce. The boys' excitement danced like fireflies through the house. Clara caught snippets of their animated discussions, their laughter breaking the weight of the uncertainty from the previous night. What if we add a giant robot? Caleb suggested, eyes sparkling. And then it can battle a dragon. Jordan added, his enthusiasm infectious. Clara's heart swelled as she watched them. These boys were sculpting their futures, and she was beyond proud. But she knew the looming challenges were still at their door. As they gathered around the breakfast table, the atmosphere buzzed with nervous energy. Mr. Thompson entered with a solemn expression, his phone buzzing with urgent notifications. Boys, we'll review your plans today, he stated, running a hand through his hair. It's important to have everything structured. The twins' smiles wavered, but they nodded. They were ready to face their father's expectations, hungry to demonstrate their commitment. Clara held her breath, feeling the tension thicken with the unanswered questions that filled the room. Just remember, Mr. Thompson added gravely, commitment means hard work, dedication, and sometimes, it means sacrifices. His voice echoed the weight of the world shaped by expectation. But Dad, Jordan interjected, we're excited about this. Sacrifice is part of pursuing our passion, right? Mr. Thompson's eyes narrowed, and Clara felt her chest clench as fear crept back in. The tension radiating from him was palpable, like a storm brewing. I just want you both to understand the cost of chasing these dreams. Not everything is about imagination. Clara jumped in, her voice firm yet encouraging. Mr. Thompson, they're not just chasing dreams, they're shaping their identities. It's a journey we should all support. A flicker of softness crossed Mr. Thompson's face, but he quickly masked it with the familiar weight of skepticism. You'll be entering a reality that demands concrete results, he said sharply. Dreams can easily fall into the trap of failure. But Dad, Caleb said, his voice rising with passion, failure is part of learning. It's not an end, it's just an opportunity to grow. In that moment, Clara felt time halt. The truth soaked into the room, and Clara could almost visualize a crack in the wall Mr. Thompson had built around his heart. She hoped he could see the boy's bravery for what it was, a symbol of growth, resilience, and love. Speaking of challenges, Clara interjected gently, we need to hear Emily's thoughts about being part of the film. What does she need to share? Caleb hesitated, but then nodded, pulling out his phone. I'll text her now. The moment felt pivotal, hung in the air like a piece of art waiting for the final brushstroke. When their phones dinged, the energy shifted again. Both twins gathered around as Caleb read aloud, she says she has an idea about a character based on her own experiences. Something powerful. Goodness, that sounds incredible. Jordan exclaimed, hope bouncing around the table. But Clara's heart raced. Would Mr. Thompson welcome this inclusion of a friend, or would he dismiss it as another distraction? In that moment, Mr. Thompson's gaze flickered, hesitating. Does everything become a group project? He asked, a hint of skepticism lacing his words. Not everything, Clara replied softly, but collaboration can enrich their project. It's how creativity thrives. Mr. Thompson shifted uncomfortably but kept eye contact with Clara. She felt a mixture of hope and apprehension wrap around them like a warm blanket, sheltering them against negativity. I'll allow it, but don't get distracted, he finally said, the softness creeping through. Stay focused on your goals. What do you think, is that a win? Jordan whispered to Caleb, their hope rekindled by their father's willingness to cooperate. As they raced outside to meet Emily at the park, Clara's heart lifted. Change was possible. Love and understanding had begun to seep into the cracks of fear. With each step, they carved a new path forward together, as a family. That evening, as they gathered around the dining table, laughter cascaded like music through their home. Clara felt a sense of harmony filling the air, one that was woven from love, dreams, and the fervent hope of dreams yet to unveil. Tomorrow held new challenges, but she felt strong. As long as they faced them together, they could intertwine dreams and reality, growing together as a family supported by love. Clara's heart brimmed with tears of joy. No longer did they only fight against walls that confined them, but rather they created a bridge toward understanding, healing, and authenticity, both for the boys and for themselves. This journey was just the beginning now, dear friends. This is your moment to step up. You need to subscribe now to not miss the next exclusive stories that'll keep you on the edge of your seat. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and show us your love. Comment below your reactions and feelings about this transformative journey. We want to hear from you. And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Together, let us spread the love and inspiration.